We're going to make a project today that I've done with second graders all the way up through teachers. So it's something that can be done with a wide range of kids. It's a lot of fun. And it's something that I've called Beatbox Machine. So my background's in both music education and computer science education. So I've kind of combined the two for this introductory project. So first thing I want you to do is I'm going to paste in the chat right here a link. In this link, I'd like you to open it and press the arrow keys or press the spacebar. And when you do that, you're going to be able to make music
Boom.
Like this. Pressing keys or spacebar.
Boom, scat, boom, scat, boom, scat, boom, scat.
So this is a very goofy version of what we're actually going to create. So take a moment and experiment with that. Have fun seeing my awkward faces. So now that you've had some fun, hopefully, in the chat, can you share, without looking at the code, what you might need to know to be able to make something like this? Or what kind of blocks might we use in this kind of a project, if you're familiar with Scratch? I'll give it about a minute or so for responses. Everyone's being shy. That's okay. So if you just joined us, it looks like some people have. I've shared in the chat a link, and the directions are right above the link. So experiment with the project. Hopefully you'll have some fun making music with my face. Looks, switch costume. Excellent. Thank you, Shannon. Cool. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to explore some resources. And the way that I've kind of designed this is taking into account hop-in, the ability to jump in and jump out. I know that people are going to kind of want to go at their own pace. So here are 3 ways to engage. The first one is you'll be able to watch some videos. The second one is you'll be able to go through some slides. And the third one is to follow along with me. So I'm going to be sharing resources about every 5 minutes or so. And so you'll have the opportunity to kind of go at your pace within each one of those. So our very first step is actually going to be open up Scratch. When you go to that link that is in the chat, it will take you to a page that looks like this. So I'm going to give everybody about 30 seconds to open up Scratch and maybe close the tutorials that may have popped up. And that I hopefully given you enough time to open up Scratch, I'm going to paste in the second step. So the second step is actually a link to this document. Now I'm going to be pasting some resources inside of the chat, and it'll tell you which step that we're on and what you're going to do. So in this particular step, you have a couple of different options. The first one is you can watch a video of myself talking about how to do something. So let me mute it. So I'll walk through step by step how to do everything that is going to be modeled on my screen. So that's your first option if you're interested in engaging with this that way. The next option, if you are familiar with Scratch and you don't need the explanations for why I'm doing things, is you can actually go through step by step in here. And when you get to the very end, you can just experiment by trying out some different ideas inside of here. Okay, so the third option is to actually follow along with me. So choose your own adventure for this first particular step, which is going to be creating at least 4 funny backdrops. So the first thing that we're actually going to do is we are going to remove Scratch Cat. So Scratch Cat is the sprite that's right here, and you're going to click on the little trash can with the X on it, and you're going to delete the cat. We actually don't need any sprites for this particular project. So we're now in our stage, which has some different backdrops. So you're going to click on the Backdrops tab right here, And you're going to go all the way down to this bottom, and it gives you some options for how you can add in some backdrops. What I would like you to do is you're going to click the camera button right here, and you're going to say allow if that pops up for you. And you're going to take some photos. Now, the reason why mine is not showing up is because I'm using the webcam right now, so don't have an opportunity to actually see my photos. What I'd like you to do is take 4, maybe more photos, hopefully making some goofy faces, etc. What it's going to look like when you do that is like this. You will have a blank backdrop, and then you'll have multiple photos of different faces inside of Scratch. So these are mine. And if you'd like to, you can name them something unique, like blah, and then the next one can be whatever you want. Okay. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. And again, if you're just now joining us inside of the chat, take a look for my name, Jared O'Leary, and look for each one of the steps on there. It has links for what we are working on. We're currently on step 2. And I'll stop talking for a couple of minutes while you work through that particular step. And just in case you're watching my screen, I'm just going to add in some random backdrops so I can demonstrate. So a question that you might consider while you're working on creating at least 4 funny backdrops is, what does it look like when you're making music? So for example, what kind of images could you use if you are rapping or singing or playing an instrument or just making goofy faces? What kind of funny pictures can you create that might match some funny sounds? Can you create different pictures for different emotions? Will you have only one person in the picture? Will you have multiple people? Will you have some pets in it? All of those are up to you. Thank you, Lynn. Again, if you just joined us, all these steps for everything I've already demonstrated are in the chat. And we're currently on step 2. Okay, quick check-in. Where are we at with step 2? Are we good to move on to step 3? If you could paste in the chat, just to let me know. Ready to go? Alrighty. So here is step 3, the resources for it. So step 3 is all about making different sounds. So you will have, hopefully, at least 4 different funny pictures. I just put in random backdrops since I can't use my camera right now. Again, you can use the presentation that I shared and you can follow at your own pace, or you can follow on my screen in Hopin. So at the very bottom left inside of Scratch, we have this blue button. When you click on this blue button, it gives you some options of more blocks that you can add to your code. So for example, you could add in some text-to-speech blocks, or maybe you want to connect with a microbit. What we're going to add in is a music block. So when you click on this, it's going to add in a new section of blocks at the very bottom. And you're going to use these blocks to be able to create a beat, a melody, whatever you want, or maybe even just a simple note. So to do that, we simply drag this in. Let me zoom in so you can see it better. And we're going to add in an event. And the event is going to be when a specific key is pressed. So I'm going to make music with my arrow keys. So if I press the up arrow, Maybe I want to play the snare drum. So it sounds like this. And if I right click, I can duplicate. And I can say maybe for the down arrow, maybe I want to make this a bass drum. So I can go. Cool. So this works for me. I like it. But I want to incorporate all the images that we were using. So hopefully for you, you have a bunch of funny pictures that you can use. And so you're going to go to a looks block. And we're going to say we want to switch to one of those photos and then switch back to our blank backdrop, which right now mine is called backdrop 1, but I'm going to go back into here and change it so it says blank. Okay. Now when I press the up arrow, it will display the photo, hopefully a funny face of you or somebody that you know, or maybe a pet. And then it will play a sound, and then it will go to a blank backdrop. So I'm going to repeat this again for each one of the keys that I want to use. Switch to a backdrop or a funny photo, play a sound, and then I want to go back to my blank one. So now I can go. And that is exactly the kind of code that I was using for this project, where that's the down arrow, and this is the up arrow. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to experiment with adding in those different sounds. Now, if you want to, by the way, you can also add in your own sounds, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Hello, Sarah. Thank you for joining. If you look in the chat, you'll see the different steps that we have gone through, starting with step 1, and we're currently on step 3. Let me continue to add in code. So on my screen, I have 4 backdrops. So I'm going to have 4 different sets of code, all with their own event block for different arrows or different keys. Oops, this one should be left arrow. Each one of them will be when I press it, switch to a backdrop, play a sound, switch to a blank backdrop. Now, when you're working on a project like this, one of the questions that you can ask a kid or someone else is what kind of sounds would match your funny pictures? You could also ask, can you match sounds to different emotions in your pictures? Or if you have more than one person in a picture, how can you trigger more than one sound at the same time? And I'll give you a hint. One way you can do that is using multiple event blocks with the same event. So I could have 2 of them that start with the up arrow. Okay, about 30 more seconds, and I'm going to show you the next step in this particular project. Welcome, Nicole. Thank you for joining. If you check out the chat, there is a list of steps that will walk through where we are currently at. Right now we're on step 3. You are welcome. All right, so I just posted in the chat step 4. So step 4 is fixing a bug. So let me show you what this bug looks like. If I press one of these keys, if I press it too fast, it can actually make it so that it removes the other backdrop and stops it very early. So it goes to the blank too soon compared to what I want. So let me give you a better example of what I'm talking about. If I make these 2 beats where it stays up on here, and then I press the up arrow and the down arrow pretty quickly, it's going to move away before the 2 beats is over. And the reason why is because this code is still running at the same time as this code. So it's running in parallel. So one way we can actually fix that is using a block that is actually going to stop other scripts from going on. So it'll play the sound, but it won't switch back to the blank backdrop. So all we have to do is add this stop other scripts in Sprite, this version, at the start of every single one of the lines of code that you have, and it'll actually fix the bug that I demonstrated. Let me switch this back. That is step 4. So if you finish and you added on this bug, then try and experiment with some different code or maybe even some different blocks by like maybe adding in some sound blocks. So I'll give you another 2 minutes or so to work through that. And then I'm going to show you how you can create a beat or melody using this platform. Hello, Sally. So if you're just joining for the first time, in the chat, there are some steps that we've been working on. So we're currently on step 4 and experimenting by adding in some more code to this than has been demonstrated. So if you want to catch up, you can start just by scrolling back up and looking through the messages by Jared O'Leary, that's me, and specifically following the steps. Okay, about 1 more minute left, and then I'm going to show you another step. All right. Let's see if that link actually works. Yes. Okay. So I just pasted inside of the chat step 5. So this resource will show you how you can create a beat or a melody. Now, being a percussionist, a drummer, I like to make beats. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do that on my screen. But again, you don't have to follow along with me. You can actually just follow the resources that are pasted there and mute me if you don't want to hear me. Totally fine. Okay. So I'm going to make it so that I can create a beat when I press the spacebar. So to do that, I'm going to say when space key is pressed, it's going to do something. The thing that I want to do is switch to a funny backdrop and then make some noise. Switch to another funny backdrop, make some noise. And it's going to just keep repeating, doing that over and over. So I'm going to use some blocks for that. So one is to switch to a backdrop, and the next one are the music blocks that I was using. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this so that I have 4 of these different pairs of blocks. So this can be any order you want. You can say any photo that you would like with any kind of a sound that you like. So I'm going to make it very simple. We're just going to go boom check. So it's going to go bass drum. Then it's going to switch to a different backdrop and then play the snare drum. And then it's going to do bass drum again. And let's do Jurassic. And then snare drum again. You can make it more complicated, whatever you want to do. We already used that picture. Let's go with bedroom 3. Okay, so now when I press spacebar, it does that, which is a very simple beat that works for our purposes. However, I wanted to do it more than just one time through this set of code. So if I go back into control, I can add in a repeat and say, let's do this 4 times. So I'm changing the parameter in here, the number. So when I press spacebar, just makes me want to dance. Okay, now this worked for my beat. However, at the very end, what I wanted to do is switch back to a blank backdrop. So I'm going to copy this and just put this at the very end. Not inside the code, but at the very end. And the reason why is because I don't want to switch to the blank one while it's repeating. Okay, so this was cool for making a beat. However, I could also pair this with making a melody on top of that. So if I wanted to, I could add in another event that's also for the spacebar. And I can, say, hey, instead of playing a drum, play a note. And then you can choose what kind of a note you want to hear, and you can create your own melodies. Being a percussionist, I'm fine with just having it all drums, so I'm not going to make a note. But if you'd like to, you can. Okay, so it looks like some more people have joined us. If you are now joining, we're midway through a project. So in the chat are all of these steps with all the links so you can get caught up by following those resources on there. So take a look at that, and I'm going to give everybody a couple more minutes to make a beat or melody or a beat and melody. Hey, Lynn, right now we are working on step 5. I'm giving time for that, in case you're wondering why I'm quiet. All right, 30 more seconds, and I will show you the next step, step 6. All right, so step 6. So we've been using essentially MIDI instruments. So instruments made by the computer. But if instead you'd like to actually have your own sounds, there's a way to do that in Scratch. You can use some of the sounds that they've come up with, or you can record your own. So if you go into the Sounds tab right here, you can go down to the very bottom left, and you can choose a sound. There are a couple different options in here. What I'm going to do is actually just click right here, choose a sound for right now. And whenever you hover over the little button right here, I like that. It's going to play the sound for you and basically demo it for you. You can actually search, or you can just go percussion sound here, those different options, etc. So you can select from their stuff if you'd like to. You know what? I really like the bah, so I'm going to go with that. Okay, so that's a neat option. However, if I would instead like to actually record my own sounds, you can, again, go down to the very bottom left, and you can click on the microphone, and it says record. So when you click here, it will likely give you a pop-up. You're going to say allow, and then you can actually start recording, and you can record whatever you want, like myself talking. And record whatever play, you want, like myself talking. You can then hear yourself, and you can go, okay, cool. I'm going to turn this into a beat or whatever. Interesting. Or I could re-record it. So I'm going to go with the word want, and that's now going to be part of my beat. So if I hit save, I now have a new recording, and this is for the word want. I play. Neat. But maybe I want it to be faster. So I can press this button a couple times and hear what it sounds like faster, or I can go slower. Okay, so now I got a bass drum sound. You can change how loud or soft it is. You can mute different portions of it by highlighting this and saying, mute that. Or going, you know what? I don't want to actually mute that. I can hit the undo button right here and undo it. And you even have some options like, let's make it so that at the very end, it's going to, yes, definitely Ferris Bueller. Thank you, Brian. Good reference. So I can make this fade out, or maybe I want to have it be a robotic bass drum sound. Yeah, now we're getting dubstep. Or maybe I want to reverse it. So lots of different options in here. When you are using the sounds blocks, your code's going to look a little bit different. So let me show you this original project that I had, where I had 4 different sounds: the boom, the tss, the gat sound, snare drum sound, and just a random wee. Because why not? Okay, so when I look at my code here, the only thing that's really different is that instead of using the MIDI blocks that I was using, these play drum sounds, I was instead using the start sound blocks, and then I was waiting however long I wanted to. So waiting for 0.25 seconds before it then switches to the next one. So I'm going to press the space bar so you can actually see and hear what this particular code will do.
Boom, scat, boom, scat, boom, scat, wee.
Okay, so that's what was just running that you see right here. And so again, the code is just basically broken down into these sets of blocks. So it's going to repeat doing this. Same pattern. Switch to a funny picture, play a sound, wait. And it just does that 4 different times. Okay, so I'm going to give you 2 more minutes to experiment with this. And again, if you're just joining us, all these steps that we have been working on are in the chat, so you can follow along there. So I'm going to stop talking for about 2 minutes, and then I'm going to share some more resources that you can explore to do this. And Sandra, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that you're going to do this with your kids. The kids I worked with loved this project. It was always a hit. 2nd graders could do this easily, very simple code. And 8th graders, some of them thought they were too cool for it, but once they actually started doing it, then they realized it was fun. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that this will help. The thing that I'm going to show you in about a minute and a half is some resources that you can actually share with your kids to make it easy. About 1 more minute, and then I'll show you the next set of resources. Excuse me. Ten more seconds. All right, so we got officially about 5 minutes until the next break and then the final set of sessions. So I want to make sure I want to show you some resources that you can use. So I'll post the link to this in a moment in the chat, but where it's going to take you to is this landing page on my website. Nothing for sale. Everything's for free on here. It has the example project that we were just exploring with at the very beginning. It has each one of these steps that I was pasting in the chat. So you can go through these on here. You can also make it full screen if you prefer that. That's a flattering photo of myself. And then you're going to just be able to continue to go through this. This is great for a session like this. However, what would be nice is a resource for kids to be able to use. So I've got that for you. So if you click on this resource, when I share it with you in the chat, it will take you to something that I'm calling Coder Resources. This has all these different steps and more, as well as more extensions. So for example, if you want to learn some more Scratch tips, how to use it, you can click here and it actually takes you to a folder. And this folder has a bunch more ideas like how to draw shapes, or how to draw with the click of a mouse, or how to create a music player controls, etc. And the last one even shows you how you can connect with a microbit. So if you're interested in doing that, cool. There's like a dozen or so tutorials in there. The student-facing resources also have debugging exercises. So while you're working on this, you may have come across some kind of a bug. That's okay. That happens. My kids, when we're in my class in Thursdays, we would always go through a debugging exercise. They'd pick their own and then they'd solve it and then continue working on their projects. Now, to help you with that, this resource has over 150 debugging exercises that you can actually explore. So that's at the very bottom of that, as well as some more resources. Now, as an educator, assuming you're all educators, you probably want some lesson plans. The lesson plans here have more resources here than I guarantee you will ever need. In fact, too much. We're working on simplifying it to make it even easier for you to use. What I'd recommend is when you open up the lesson plan, go to the project sequence. And the project sequence has step-by-step everything I would have done when I was in the classroom, everything I would have said, everything I would have demonstrated and modeled, etc. That's all on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side is like more resources, like here are some example discussion questions that I would have asked when I was in the classroom. And this shows you step-by-step everything to do, like create a funny backdrops, or how to trigger the different sounds, etc. It also has all of the extensions, assessments, more resources than you will ever need. Again, just go to the project sequence and then you'll be able to start exploring that. The last set of things on here that I want to point out is that when you click on this image, it's actually going to take you to 40 Scratch lessons that I've created, all 100% free, no ads, nothing like that. This is my full-time gig, so I make resources for teachers to use for free. So the project that we just worked on was number 13, Beatbox Machine. There are more music projects. If your kids are interested in making music, cool. Maybe they'll want to do the music player. If they like games, cool. Maybe try this blinking maze game where your sprite is blinking and you can't always see. There's a bunch of really cool projects on here, if I do say so myself as a creator of them. Kids love working through these. So tons of stuff on here. If you scroll a little bit further, if you want to dive deeper into learning more about the research behind CS education and hearing interviews with awesome people like Lynn Diaz, who I believe her podcast came out on Monday, you can check out the podcast here. So the thing that I've been rambling on about is found here. So this is the link in the chat to all of the resources that I was just demonstrating that you can access for here. And there's literally thousands more resources, again, all free on this website. So check out the computer science education stuff, or if you're into music, maybe even some of the music education resources. And you can also check out some of the podcast presentations and publications to get more information about how to dive deeper on this. So we have less than 1 minute left. So if you have any questions, you can request to share your audio and video. You can post them in chat, or you can always press the contact me button on my website, and then I will respond to you usually within 24 hours, except not on the weekends. Thank you everyone for all the kind words. I appreciate it. Yeah, Sandra, that's sorry to hear that they're getting bored with CS First, but there's 40 projects that they can jump into, and they can go at whatever pace they want when working on these. All the resources, step by step, show you how to go through that. Brian, de nada. And now my timer has gone off, so I think our session is officially done. But I hope you enjoyed it. I had fun. It's a little weird just talking to a chat box, but I appreciate the engagement. Hope you enjoyed the resources. And again, please feel free to contact me if you do have some questions. Oh, thank you. And I think we have a 5-minute break. So then I think it's the next set of sessions, which should appear, I think, now in there. Yes, Brian, talking to a chat box is super weird. Having done Hopin now a few times, I do appreciate they actually show when somebody enters the room, so I can at least say, hey, nice to see you. Over the summer with CSK, it was a little weird when they didn't have that feature. Yeah, for anyone who's listening, originally you just had the eyeball at the top and it'd tell you how many people were there, but you had no idea who was in the room. So it's like, hi, eyeball, how you doing? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and leave this session because I know that everybody's going to be going to another session. But again, thank you so much for attending. And please, seriously, contact me if you do have any questions about this. But hope you all have a good rest of the conference, and I will talk to you another time.